Hey everyone, I'm Steph,
I'm Megan.
and welcome to another episode of Late Night Reads.
This week we are talking contemporary romance and covering Variation by Rebecca Yarros. Look how beautiful this cover is. It's so pretty. I love these flowers and the koi
Ag-
fish.
Agreed. So let's start with why we selected Variation. We may have started reading Rebecca Yarros because of Fourth Wing. Let's be honest, most of us did. But our love for her writing style compelled us to check out her contemporary romance books, and we fell in love with the incredible characters that she creates. We also, as you know, love to be emotionally destroyed. Love it
Yeah,
so
we do.
much.
We love it.
And all of her books tend to deliver on that, some more than others. So there's definitely some soul-crushing moments in this book, but it doesn't really destroy you as much as some of her other contemporary romance novels do. Plus, who doesn't want to read a book about a professional ballerina and a Coast Guard swimmer? There is nothing more unlikely in terms
Yeah,
of a romance than those two professions.
but you know it's going to be hot. So I was so excited for this one. And here are a few things that you should know about the author, Rebecca Yarros. So she is known for her Empyrean fantasy series, which we all love so much. Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, Onyx Storm. Who knows what's next? And it is being adapted for television by Amazon. Very excited for that as well. Rebecca has EDS, which is connective tissue disorder, just like Violet. And she has 6 kids. One is adopted, and she is a huge advocate for foster children and improving their lives in the foster system, hence her nonprofit, One October. She has a military background, and she has written over 20 books, with the majority of them being a contemporary romance. So, very excited to jump into this world with her.
But before we do, a couple of key reminders. This episode will contain spoilers. If you're listening, we assume you've read this book. It also does contain a number of topics that may be sensitive for some readers, including adoption, anxiety, car accident, death, dementia, depression, divorce, emotional abuse, fire, hospitalization, infertility, medical trauma, miscarriage, pregnancy, and PTSD. It's a lot.
There's a lot. But now let's talk tropes. Right in the very beginning, they're young teenagers, they become friends, and eventually it evolves into something more, which I think is kind of always the goal. Like you're friends first, and then like the relationship develops. But this relationship is actually a forbidden love. So when they're younger, the friendship and eventual love for one another is definitely forbidden by Allie's mother. The relationships are seen as a distraction for any professional ballerina, so it's a big no-no. And I guess you could also even say it's kind of like a class difference. Like she is much more like elite in comparison to him. Like her mom considers him to be like the river boys, like he's like a less than. So there's also that kind of aspect in there too. And then another trope we have here is second chances. This book is all about giving Allie and Hudson a second chance, since their friendship and the potential for it to bloom into something more had ended with the aftermath of the car accident. Next, we have a fake relationship. Allie and Hudson agree to fake date to try to improve Caroline's impression of the Rousseau family. And so Juniper eventually, can dance and have a relationship with her biological family, but they have to pretend to get her to like her. And then, of course, we have a one bed trope, which is always a fan favorite. They have the camping cabin that they stay in only has one bed. And of course, it works like a charm.
Now,
So
like
fun.
all Rebecca Yarros books, there is a ton of drama, and this one does a couple of time jumps throughout it. So we start 11 years ago when Hudson meets Allie for the first time, in what I would only assume would be a terrifying situation for most people, right? Like
Yeah,
you're in the water, he's swimming in lots of big waves, and he's a teenage boy just practicing to eventually become a Coast Guard rescue swimmer.
he's
And I'm
having
like,
fun. And I'm
yeah, like
like,
this is enjoyable to him. It's also
crazy.
cold. No, thank
Yeah,
you.
no, no thanks.
And he sees two girls who are in a boat and they appear to be sinking. So, unlike what I would say the proper response would be, which is to call for help, he decides, I'm going to play hero. And him and his brother Gavin head towards their boat and try and help. And then the boat capsizes. And Hudson, once again, jumps into the water to try and save them. And it's funny because, like, at this point, I'm like, you're like 16. This seems like a lot of poor decisions.
Yeah,
And he's not a trained rescue swimmer at all. But he does somehow like manage to rescue both Allie and Eva. Now, he doesn't recognize the girls, but Gavin does and tells him to watch the way he's looking at Allie because they're the Rousseau girls and they aren't allowed to interact with anyone else outside their social circle. So back to what you were saying earlier about like them being more elite. And they happen to be ballerinas. And Gavin happens to maybe have a thing with their older sister, Lena. Because he comments like, she's incredibly talented, gorgeous, and fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something going on there.
Something going on there. Plus, Hudson and Gavin's sister, Caroline, hates their entire family because of an alleged milkshake incident, which seems like the most teenage drama situation possible. Like, you hate an entire family because of a milkshake? And even when you find out what it is, it's really kind of honestly stupid. But anyways, he takes a risk and she has his hoodie because she's cold. And he's like, keep it for the next time I take you boating and see you. And she's like, well, I can't date. And he's like, well, you can have friends, right? And she's like, well, then call me Allie. And by the end of the summer, they're best friends. And then the kind of chapter ends by saying by the end of the next summer, she hates him. Which all I thought was at first, like, talk about typical like teenage drama. That sounds like every relationship and friendship that tends to happen in high school.
Yeah, for sure. And then you fast forward 15 months later, so like pretty much like the next summer, Allie and Lena are in a car accident. Allie's memories of the accident are extremely jumbled at this point in the book because she believes that Lena somehow helped her out of the car and got her to safety on the top of this hill and gave her their mom's ring and then ran back to the car, and then all of a sudden the car explodes. And like that's what caused Lena's death. And so you're just like, okay, first we have this like boat incident, and now we have a car accident with the sister dying, and you're like, what? Like,
and it's chapter 2.
This is a lot. This is chapter 2. And you're like, okay, Rebecca Yarros, like you are not playing around right now. But then later in the book, we learn that that's not exactly the truth of what happened that night at all. So, but leading up to it, like, this is what we believe, that like her sister saved her and like said, here's my ring, like take care of what I left behind. And then explosion. You're like, oh my God.
Like we don't kill people in chapter 2. The first book I ever read of hers, someone died in chapter 1. And I was just like, what? Like the first contemporary romance. I was like, what? We don't kill characters this quickly.
So crazy. But then like I guess you don't really get like attached to them as much. So
no,
that's okay. It's like ripping off the Band-Aid. But fast forward 10 years later, Allie is prepping to dance the lead in Giselle at the Metropolitan Opera House, while her younger sister Eva is dancing in the basically like the chorus background. And Allie is definitely super nervous about this performance because her mom has legit impossible standards, and she just cannot seem to let go of the fact that Lena should have been the one dancing this role and not Allie. Plus, she's having problems now with her Achilles, and she needed a cortisone shot for it the other day, and this is foreshadowing that something bad is going to happen. Like, every single time she's been pushing herself to the limit in an attempt to earn her mom's praise, which will just never happen because her mom is legit a classic narcissist and is also like a super mean like ballet teacher, like throwing water bottles, yelling at the kids, like saying their feet are sloppy, mean. And we also learned here that Allie doesn't really believe in like a Mr. Right, but she has no problems with a Mr. For Right Now. And of course, she kind of like sleeps with some of the other dancers, and she also kind of slept with and choreographed a couple of things with the choreographer, Isaac. So, you know, not necessarily like sleeping to get ahead situation, but if you're sleeping with a choreographer and then he just so happens to like choreograph this entire ballet for you, gotta wonder how that happened. But this new ballet that he choreographed for her is called Equinox. And they're hoping that it's going to end up on the fall schedule, according to the artistic director, Vasily Kozlov. And so far, it seems like everything Allie should want as a ballerina is happening for her. She's got this lead role. It's going to be great. What could go wrong?
Famous last words.
Famous last words.
Right? Steps on the performance stage and pain starts to kick in. And then she thinks she sees someone in the back row. And at first, when I read this, I was like, oh, does she think it's her sister? Like, is she having some sort of like PTSD and she's going to see Lena there because like she was supposed to dance this role or whatever?
Right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking
Anyways,
too.
right? And so I was not thinking it was going to be Hudson that she thought, because she's been apparently setting aside tickets for 10 years for Hudson, who has never come. And so she thinks she sees him, and then she convinces herself it was just her imagination. And at the end of the performance, like she kind of like is supposed to like kind of fall to the ground, but then she can't get up and starts screaming, which is like not, I mean, that's not great if you're anyone, if you can't get up once you're on the ground. Super not great if you're a ballerina
And
on
I've
stage.
seen this variation that she's doing. Like, it is tough. Like, you literally have like a tambourine kind of, and like as you're like doing like pirouettes and fortes across the stage, like you're on one foot and your other foot is like kicking the top. So like you're hopping along the stage like on one foot on point. And I can't imagine like if your Achilles is like already hurting and you're like putting your entire body weight on that one foot and just hopping and spinning and like going across the stage, like, oh my God, that thing is gonna snap.
Now,
And it does. Oh,
so, and we fast forward a few months later, and we read a post from the Seconds app, which is asking if anyone has seen Allie since her injury. And this reminded me of the little epitaphs that we get at each chapter in Fourth Wing, where we get a little bit of information because we get a little bit from the Seconds app almost at every chapter, and sometimes throughout the chapter too.
seconds is kind of like TikTok,
That's kind of what I thought of, right? Like
right?
kind of
That's
like
what
a
I felt.
TikTok-esque, or
Yeah.
like a Threads, or like maybe what Twitter used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like at the beginning of the book, Hudson is playing hero again, but he's actually a rescue swimmer this time, so he's supposed to be doing that. And we see him rescue a man and a dog from a sinking boat, which at first you're like, why is there so much detail about him rescuing a man and this dog? Well, because the dog eventually goes home with Hudson and then becomes Allie's dog. And we learn he's only been back in Cape Cod for 3 years and is helping his sister Caroline, whose husband died from cancer, take care of their daughter Juniper. And he's definitely Juniper's favorite. Like he's like the best favorite uncle. And he tries to advocate for her to take ballet classes, which Caroline is like extremely opposed to. And it is really hard to not be frustrated with Caroline. I'm like, what do you hate? I mean, like I get the milkshake incident and there's some mean ballerinas in town, but like you're not gonna let your daughter take ballet. That seems a bit much.
Yeah. Like, come on, let's let go of like our pettiness from when we were teenagers and like move on.
Exactly. And then when you find out like the real reason later, it's which we'll talk about, is kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But Juniper is the most tenacious 10-year-old in the entire world. And a rule
Uh-huh.
breaker, just like her uncle, because she's snooping around the attic. She finds a picture of him and Allie that happened to be taken, we learned, from the night of the crash. And she's like, well, you guys were together. You love her. And I'm like, are you trying to emotionally destroy this man? Like,
Yeah, seriously.
way to
Emotional
go.
blackmail.
She's very good at it.
So good.
So she knows what to do and how to use it to get what she wants. Like, super well done. Because she has a whole plot around why she's bringing up Allie.
Well done. Well done,
Well done.
Juniper. And then that's how we end up at Allie's house. And basically, Juniper tells Hudson, like, hey, by the way, she's back in town, because of her injury. And so, like, let's go to her house and just, like, say hi. And they go over there, and Hudson sees Allie in the water, and she's really just, like, practicing her breath control, but he thinks she's drowning. And, he kicks in his, like, training. He's like, I gotta go save her. But definitely not how either one of them ever imagined reconnecting. And it goes about as well as you could expect, pretty much, given the circumstances. Allie is super pissed off at him for everything that happened the past 10 years, and even like what happened 10 years ago. And she just wants to pretend that she's over it. She's not, clearly not. Her frustration goes to another level when she learns that he does know about her Achilles injury from the accident, and he never bothered to call. And he just like left for his basic training for Coast Guard without ever saying a word. So she's really pissed off that like we were best friends. I got in a terrible accident and you just left and never said goodbye. So it's super easy to want to be mad at Hudson at this moment, given what we know as a reader. But it's also important to remember that he was 18. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't always make the right choices or like know what to say. So a little bit of grace. And he even says that too. He's like, I was a kid. I was stupid. I'm sorry. Like, I shouldn't have done that. But you can't go back in time. But now let's get back to the real surprise. Juniper wanted to meet Allie to help convince her mom to allow her to do ballet. And she does this because Juniper is convinced that Allie is her biological mother, because Juniper was adopted, but did not expect to see that when we read this. We're like, wait, what? You had this whole ruse because you think Allie is your biological mother?
And you're 10? Like,
and you're 10.
Like, I'm super impressed with your, like, sleuthing capabilities.
Yeah, like you could be a good spy, you know? Like, you'd be a really good spy. But it's also, like, Allie and Hudson are like, that's not possible given, like, the timeline of everything in Allie's life. But Juniper is convinced how much they look alike and that they move alike. And she's like, just take this DNA test. And Juniper's like, I already took one. You just take it, send it in. It's just like a swab of your saliva, and like that's it. Super smart 10-year-old. Like, oh my God, she's so intelligent. But Allie's like, dude, I'm not your mom. Like, I've never had a baby. Like, I think I would know. Like,
right?
I'm not your mom.
I would remember that.
I would remember that. And she's like, plus, like, I was a virgin when you were born.
So
this math doesn't math right, you know? But she's like, whatever, like, you're a kid who needs to, like, see the proof. So she takes the DNA test to prove to Juniper that she's not her mom. And she takes it, and then she's, like, opening the results, and she goes, oh my God. What? We're related. More to come.
More to come. Okay, so we also get to meet Allie's older sister, Anne, and this one hit like close to home, and her shitty soon-to-be ex-husband Finn, who is divorcing her apparently because she can't give him a child. And when I read this, I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, I was livid. Because
this woman went through like so much IVF and all this shit, and you're gonna divorce her because her body can't, like, what?
As if that's somehow her fault.
Right.
It was so frustrating. And what's sad is, like, I know there are men out there that are like this. And it's just infuriating. I'm like, there are lots of different ways to start a family.
Yeah. Also,
what kind of shitty dad are you going to be if this is, like, there's a problem and your first thing to do is divorce your wife?
Yeah. And not only that, but she was, like, a high-power attorney. Like, she was a badass, and she gave all that up to try and, like, do this for you, and you just, like, peace out when it doesn't work. Like, screw you.
Thank you. Screw you.
I'm happy she got divorced from this guy.
I am too.
Like, bad dude.
Bad dude. Well, while we're talking about shitty people, let's talk about this. We got to talk about the mom. And so apparently, we learn that the mom has a condition regarding the summer house, which is how one of them has to occupy it for the entire summer every 3 years, or they lose the house. And then, like, all 3 of them have to be there for at least a week together. And I'm like, what kind of weird ass control are you trying to have around 3 grown ass women? Like, this is so asinine.
It's so dumb. I'm like, I get it that, like, the mother never liked the house. Like, the father had bought it, and, like, he forced them all to go there. And, like, after he passed, she's like, well, I want to sell the house, but I won't if you do this. It's just like, ugh. So manipulative.
Exactly. I'm just like, what is wrong with you?
Ugh, so much was wrong with that mother.
A lot is wrong with her. Well, 6 days later, we see Hudson on a double date, and he's still, I mean, it's, 10 plus years hung up on Allie, that he is like the world's worst date. Like, he should not go on dates with women.
No.
And I really love the banter you see, and it kind of consists throughout between him and Gavin, because Gavin is like the older brother and knows how to wind him up and get him to eventually confess that he does have feelings for Allie, both at this point in the book and then later in the book too.
He reminds me of Riddick.
He does. He does.
Just like the funny banter.
The funny banter and like the kind of calling you on your shit. So good. And it's like the date's going horrible. This night sucks. This poor woman has no idea that this guy does not want to be there on this double date. And then Allie shows up. So This girl never stood a chance and definitely doesn't now that Allie's in the room. And then she happens to drop the bomb like, oh, FYI, I'm Juniper's aunt.
Like, we were related, and I'm her aunt, which means which one of my sisters had the baby?
Who's the baby mama?
And who's the dad?
And who's the dad? So at this point, like, they quickly come to, like, it has to be Lena, right? Like, it can't be Ava. She was younger. Obviously, it's not Anne. Like, Anne desperately wants children.
Yeah.
So it has to be Lena. And at this point, I am, like, pretty convinced the baby daddy is Gavin. Like,
I was too.
Right? There are so many hens, and I'm like, and then you get his family has Juniper. Like, it just seems to make sense. Yeah. And maybe he doesn't know, and he probably doesn't even know about it, was my kind of thought. So, and if it can't get, like, more awkward, so when Allie and Hudson are having this conversation in her home to, like, talk in depth about it, like, Juniper's, like, because who doesn't as a 10-year-old, skips school, rides her bike there, and shows up unannounced and was like, hey, I got a notification about the DNA test. It said that we're related. How? I'm like, you have a lot of cojones for a 10-year-old girl.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
Partially, like super proud and also scared.
Yeah, I'm like, you're 10 going on 30. Like,
right.
Because she's like, it goes both ways on the app. Like, you can't just get it and, like, it'll notify me if we're related. And you're like, oh, this
like, okay, but
she's smart.
But also, could you have, like, I don't know, you have a phone. Could you have, like, told someone? Could you have said to Hudson, like, hey, I see that we're related. Like, why are you doing all of this on your own?
Yeah. But Juniper shows up and she wants to know all about Lena because she does the math herself. She's like, it has to be Lena. Like, if it's not you and it's not Anne and it's not Eva, like, duh, it's Lena. Like, the only one's left. But we can't ask her because she's dead. But according to the timeline, it's like, yes, she could have had a baby before she died. But Juniper's just like, I want to know how she died. I want to know everything about her. And that's really hard for Allie to talk about because she legit doesn't remember. And she just, like, pretty much said, like, I just, have memory problems from back then. Like, and also it confirms, like, she has some PTSD from the accident because she basically just has, like, an anxiety attack whenever she talks about it. But we also learn here that her mom is not only a narcissist, but is a completely raging, horrible person because she blamed Allie for Lena's death. Like, literally says, like, it should have been you. Like, you should have died and Lena should have been alive. And it's like, fuck. Like,
right?
Like, who says that to their kid? Like, ugh.
I think more parents than you think, probably. Like, God. Or in terms of, like, blaming other children for another child's mistake or poor choices. I think it happens a lot more than I think you and I would like to think.
Yeah. And that's heartbreaking.
It really is.
I just, so if you're listening out there, you are not to blame for anything. I mean, like, unless you, like, legit, like, murdered your sibling, like,
and hopefully you're not listening because you're in jail.
Hopefully you're not listening because you're in jail. Yeah, exactly. But, you're not to blame. Whew, moving on. So that is intense, basically, to, like, hear Allie's description of what happened in a way. And, meanwhile, Allie and Hudson believe, like, we have to tell Caroline about this news that, apparently I'm her aunt. But Juniper is adamant that they don't tell her because she's not supposed to technically be even looking for her birth family until she's 18. And she's really worried that, like, her mom's going to get pissed and, like, maybe do, like, a restraining order against them or something. And it's just legit hard because Caroline has a really big fear about someone potentially taking away her daughter, which is a real fear that adoptive parents have. Like, I'm sure, as you know, like, you never are certain that, like, things are going to be, like, sealed and final, I think. So I can understand that and, like, understand that Juniper, like, really wants to know about her birth family and just, like, caught in this kind of, like, catch-22 situation. But they decide to compromise in a way that Juniper suggests that they get Caroline to at least like Allie first, since her whole thing is, like, I hate her family. I'm like, well, what if we make her like you? Then she, maybe that'll be okay. And then we tell her, hey, by the way, you like this girl so much. Oh, turns out she's my aunt. Oh, and she's a ballerina. Oh, I can take ballet, right?
Right.
This is all
In the
because
mind of a 10-year-old, it sounds perfect.
yeah, she's like, it's gonna work. It's gonna be great. It's all gonna be good. And you're like, oh, you cute little thing. Like, I love your positive thinking. Um, but it's just like, well, we'll see how this goes. And part of the whole deal is Juniper says, in order to get my mom to like you, you should date Hudson, like for pretend, so that like you can come around. And Hudson's like, I don't know about that, dude. Like, I don't think we can like fake being in a relationship. And he's like, because I still love her, clearly. The drama intensifies when Anne comes home, sees Juniper, and immediately is like in shock, like as if she's seen Lena's ghost. Like she knows, like, you're related to Lena. And she is super pissed that Allie didn't tell her as soon as she found out. So then Anne demands Allie to just do whatever is necessary to stay close to Juniper. Because again, like she's never been able to have children. She sees this child as part of their family. And of course, she also now has like tons of questions about how Juniper ended up with Caroline and like how she would end up with their own family. And she just wants to know everything about Juniper. Like, does she get good grades? Does she have friends? Like, and basically that's how Allie and Hudson decide to go with the ruse of the fake dating. Because they're like, you know what? Let's just get to know her. And then our cute little puppy dog appears. And Hudson's like, yeah, I rescued this dog. I don't really know what to do with it. It's like a puppy, like 7 or 8 months old. And Allie's like, I'm going to take this dog. It's my dog now. And her name is Sadie, and she's like a cute little puppy. And now it becomes Allie's dog.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll all be fine.
It'll all be fine.
Well, and then there's like
Can't
this more like interactions between Anne and Hudson. So like Allie kind of like walks away with the dog, and Anne wants to know about Juniper. She's like quizzing Hudson, and he wants to know what's going on with Allie. Because even after just this short time he spent with her, he knows there's something wrong. And Anne does confirm that Allie is struggling with depression, but she's taking meds. She sees a therapist for it, and she makes this confident like comment like, "Oh, she'll pull out of it just like she did after the accident," which is like to Hudson like another dagger to the heart. Like, what do you mean? But she's went through this before. And then she accuses Hudson of doing something with Lena the morning of the accident that they didn't want anyone to see. And like insinuates it has to, like, this clearly would have to be something to do with why Juniper went to their family. And then for that moment, I was like, Hudson can't be the dad. Like, that would be crazy, right?
No way.
Like, but what is this? Because like Anne she's very, like, I think her legal mind switches on in this situation, like where she's trying to like figure this all out. Yeah. And then Hudson, just hits right back, not literally, figuratively with his words.
Yeah.
And accuses Allie's mom of expecting her to replace Lena almost immediately. And then Anne did nothing about it. Like, you've just sat around and watched this happen. Like, you're the older sister and you didn't help. And that is 1,000% true back then. And it's true right now too. Like, Anne is trying to help, but she also is definitely an enabler.
Yeah, for sure.
So we get some fake dating, which normally, like, I love fake dating because I feel like it's going to turn into something else, and you know that. But it's not fake for Hudson. He's hoping that like he can convince her to be with him.
One of the best lines he says is like, "I'll take you any way I can get you,"
which is like, he says it like multiple times throughout the book in various different meanings.
Oh yes, he does.
He does. And Allie still is clearly attracted to him, right? But she's, kind of put herself in this little box with all these walls that she's built up over the years. And so she comes up with some rules, like, you can touch me in public, but like to keep up this ruse, but like, that's it. When we're alone, you can't touch me. And you can't date anyone while we're fake dating. And he was like, why would I want to?
He's like, you're the only one for me. I don't want to date anyone else anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. And then he says, everything they say to each other has to be the truth. Like, that's kind of like his comment, which I think is a great little added thing there. And they get to the birthday party, right? And they man the T-Rex fighting station. So there's like inflatable T-Rexes, which I have no desire to ever get in one. I know people find them hilarious, but I would probably just like topple over.
I've been in one, and you do. You just fall over. You're just like, I got a big head and little arms, and you're just like, they're fun though. They are fun. I feel like
I'd fall over and like not be able to get up. And it would just be,
You'd be a turtle on your back. Just
yes, like, help. And then I feel like my family, like my husband would just like stand there and laugh and not do anything.
they'd be like, well, you got yourself in this situation. You're gonna have to get yourself out of it. Oh, that'd be funny.
So while that part is fun, what's
Yeah.
not fun is the inquisition of Caroline, who refuses to believe that they're actually dating. Which at first I think it kind of started off as like the big sister trying to like make sure that this girl from this family that I hate isn't gonna break my brother's heart. But then it gets like pretty aggressive.
It gets personal.
It's very personal. It's mean-spirited. And
Yeah.
Hudson like kind of loses his shit. And there's this part where he goes off, like not in a mean way. He's just like, let me let me just tell you. And he answers like 7 questions or something ridiculous about her, like all in one breath to
Yeah.
prove how much he knows her. I think it starts with when he explains why she can't eat strawberries because she's like allergic. And
Yeah.
that's why he
Like
gets her like a
Caroline's
brownie.
Yeah, Caroline's like, oh, you don't eat like sugar and carbs. You don't like my strawberry shortcake. And he's like, she's allergic. So
Like,
shut up.
shut up. And her birthday's this, and like, and on, right?
Yeah.
And then like Juniper like throws down the photo of like, and they haven't just known each other for a few weeks. They've like, this is like years in the making. Because most of his family, minus Gavin, didn't even know they were friends back then. Like, this was a huge secret. Which, I mean, given this warm welcome, why would he
Can't
have kept that
imagine
away?
why.
Can't imagine.
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
No idea.
But then Juniper feels like Juniper like kind of shouts at her mom like, you're ruining my party. And she's upset. Allie's upset. Juniper cries, and Allie's like, I think I should leave. And
then you
it's
see
just
like a really, yeah. But then you see like a really touching moment where like Caroline goes up to Juniper and is like hugging her and like even says, I'm sorry. And Allie witnesses that and she's like, oh my God, I've never had my mother apologize to me. So like
that's
she witnesses
heartbreaking.
there like how good of a mother Caroline is. And like truly how better the situation is that Juniper is growing up with Caroline and not in her own family,
Yes,
which is sad to realize,
it
like
is.
the difference of like my mother is abusive and controlling and like not all mothers are like that. Shocking. But if that isn't bad enough, Allie's sister Eva then seems to take a bit after their mother and likes to kick Allie when she's down, like literally, and sends her a video from the Seconds app that shows Allie's performance with loads of horrible comments. And that's just like not the type of thing that you really should point out to someone who's already struggling with depression. And it literally leads Allie to just want to push herself even harder. And this is honestly where we start to kind of hate Eva. You're like, which honestly, I also was like, did you create fake accounts? And like, are you the one saying all this mean stuff about your sister? Like, I wouldn't be shocked at that point if she like also was kind of behind
I
it.
wouldn't either.
It's so
Well,
bad.
she seems to be, and maybe this is kind of like the persona that Rebecca Yarros based her off of, but there's a lot of people on social media who just like to stir the pot, create chaos, create drama, and then show other people to create more drama. And it just feels like she's one of those types of people, which are, it's exhausting.
Yeah. And like, of course, Eva's like, this is all for the algorithm so we can get more followers to like post like these different videos of comparisons and whatnot. She's like, dude, don't be that person. Like, stop. Like, also, like, that's your sister. Like,
And if
come
there are
on.
hateful comments and you really cared, you can delete those. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you take them down?
Yeah, exactly. Like, help your sister out.
Or keep it to yourself and like
Yeah.
protect her.
Yeah. So we just don't like Eva at this point at all. She's just, which makes sense why Caroline doesn't like the family. Because I'm like, yeah, Eva is a terrible representation.
And she's the one
Terrible.
that did the milkshake incident to begin with.
Yes. It's like we can all agree Eva's bad. We don't like her. So Anne, meanwhile, figured out that their mother had to have known that Lena was pregnant based on some of the old photos that she found. And so she and Allie head straight to the Brooksfield Institute, which this whole time we're led to believe is a dance academy until very later in the book when we learn it's actually an assisted living facility because their mom has frontal lobe dementia, which is sad, but also you're like, it doesn't make up for the fact that you were a terrible mother
No, it does
their
not.
entire lives. But we kind of visit the mom, and we're led to believe this is in a dance studio because this is a great facility. They've like built this room for their mom to make her feel like she is in her own world, like meet them where they're at, which is a really good theory. So I like this facility. I'm like, that's good. That's really great that they're doing that. But their mom, Sophie, is exactly what you would expect from a narcissistic mother. Because she immediately tells Allie to go into various ballet positions and then criticizes her. So like Allie walks in and is like, "Hi, mom," and she's just like, "Fifth." And so Allie has to place her feet in fifth. She goes, "Sloppy. Do it again." Like she does it again. And you also see that just like extreme emotional abuse right there, where she's just
Yes.
like screaming at her and criticizing, saying, "Oh, sloppy feet." And you're like, come on. And so then they ask their mother, Sophie, about Lena's baby. And her mother tells them, "Don't ask me again." And she just like keeps like talking about dance stuff instead. And this is then followed by her screaming at Allie that it should have been her that died and not Lena. Oh, like
Right?
there are not enough words to describe how awful this woman is. Just terrible.
Like absolutely terrible. Like it's one thing for Lena, like at this point in the book, right? Like we know that from Allie's point of view that supposedly she feels this way, that she feels that her mom feels this way and has said things. But to read it being said to her again is just absolutely heartbreaking. And that's also frustrating because I feel like Anne, you're there and you do nothing. Like really. I mean, like you kind of stand up for Allie a little bit in the book, but like you're kind of like a wallflower. You just tolerate this shit.
Yeah. And it's like there's only so much you can blame on the dementia at this point. Like, yes, dementia does like change your personality and can make you more aggressive and like mean, but this is like a telltale like sign that her mother's always been this way. And it's
Yes.
just gotten worse. Like she wasn't always a nice lady and then suddenly became mean. It's like, no, she's always been mean. She's
This
always
is who
been
she is.
terrible. Yeah. And it's just, ugh, so bad. So,
Well,
so
and
bad.
well, I think one of the things that is interesting sometimes about Rebecca Yarros books is we have these moments where it's like gut wrenching and you feel so bad for character, and then it like moves on to like now we're gonna go to the beach, and it kind of like just like seesaws your emotions a little bit, and I'm like, okay, now we're going to the beach because
But I think she knows we need that break.
we do,
Like,
yes.
we need to
Well, and
rebuild.
in some books she doesn't give you that break, and she just kind of continues to emotionally destroy you
And you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna keep turning the page and cry.
and cry. And this
And
one
we
we don't
do.
have to do that. We get to go to the
No, yeah.
beach, and the whole point was Hudson's mom's like, "We'll go to the beach with us. It'll make up for like Caroline's poor behavior," which sounds like a great idea. And it like for the most part is a pretty good day, right? Like Hudson gets
Yeah.
Allie in the water. It feels like a pretty good day. Except when Hudson's alone, Caroline's like, "You can't date Allie."
Excuse
Like
me.
like you I'm so, like she's nice, but you can't date her. But it won't like specifically say why, except that she believes Allie doesn't want him and points out like how Allie reacts every time Hudson touches her. And of course, Allie has to overhear this, right? And then she walks straight up to him and kisses him, which shouldn't be a
We're
big deal
like,
because
yay,
they're in
yay.
this fake relationship, but they've never kissed before. So like their first kiss, which is what pisses Hudson off, is because Caroline pissed Allie off.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
he's like, that's not how our first kiss is supposed to go.
absolutely not. And he makes this comment about how I've like been fantasizing about this for 11 years, like, which is,
Ooh.
like swoon,
Oh
like,
my.
okay, oh
All
my,
right.
this is deeper than I thought. And so he's like, that's not what I want. And so then he gets her to admit that she wants to kiss him too. And so then this whole like 5 minute thing starts, and it kind of is from the very beginning of the book, right? Where they say like just give me 5 minutes.
You can do
And
anything
so
for 5 minutes.
yes. And it does carry throughout the book in different situations. So he's like, I want 5 minutes where you don't pretend, like where I really get to kiss you. And so then he does kiss her for the first time. Super hot. Everything Allie could dream of. And all I'm like, are they
Except for the fact that it's in like a shower stall.
correct? Like it's in this like right because we're at the beach. We're not in a nice facility. We are in what I assume is kind of like one step above an outhouse. If you've
Yeah.
ever been to like a public beach setting, the
It's
door is
not.
locked, and I'm just like, are they gonna have sex at the beach? And that's where I thought this was going. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. Like normally I would be super on board with it, but I also feel like this is not the right setting, and we got a little bit more baggage that we need to deal with before we take it there. Which is exactly kind of like what happens because while they're kissing and their hands are all over each other, she starts to think about like we could have had this for 11 years, which is like, oh, but if he hadn't left. And then right like, oh. And it's like when you're reading about like the bad boy in another book or like an enemies to lovers and you're just like the main female character's like, oh, he's so great. If he wasn't a murderer, if he wasn't like my sworn enemy.
Literally like your own buzzkill. Where it's like,
Correct.
this would have been perfect. And then I'm going to pour ice water in my mind and be like, wait, no.
Right. And then she's like, and you broke my heart. Like we were friends, but you broke my heart. Oh. So needless to say, nothing else spicy happens. She goes home, and by some miracle, her best friend Kenna, who also happens to be like the sports medicine doctor for their company, shows up because Allie's been avoiding her. And she's a great listener. So Allie's telling her like what's going on, both like with her ankle as well as with like Hudson. And I kind of love Kenna's character because she's like, I'm not a therapist. Like I can't help you. Like you've kind of got to figure this out. And she's always in Allie's corner. And then she also likes to call people on their shit, which I super love and appreciate, and calls out Anne for enabling her. She's like, as soon as she sees her, she's like, hello, enabler.
Yeah.
And I'm
it's
like, yes.
But true. She speaks the truth.
She speaks the truth. And she gives zero fucks about what other people think.
Yeah.
But Anne does have a good heart. So I think like that's the one thing. Like Anne is definitely an enabler, but Anne does have what she believes are Allie's best intentions at heart. And she meddles. And I do love a good meddler.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, FYI, I RSVP'd for you to attend the upcoming like company gala with Hudson because there will be photographers there. And so you can further prove this ruse to Caroline. I'm just like, noted. Well done.
Noted.
Well done, Queen. So, and then we also
I hate that like Anne though put down like guest.
Yes.
Like didn't put down Hudson's name. Like really? Like we'll get to that, but still it's like, come on, Anne.
You never know.
But yeah, you never know.
And then Gavin also is up to shenanigans.
Yes, he is.
Because, I mean, which you can't, like, you have to expect from his character. Because he's been secretly taking Juniper to ballet lessons for the last 5 months. So what I'm super impressed that he has showed up on time and taken her for consistently on Sundays for 5 months. Two,
and
that
he's
they've
paying
kept this,
for it.
And he's paying for it. And they've kept this secret.
Yeah.
Juniper's got skills.
It's got skills, man.
She's got skills. I think that there's a one point in the book where they're like, either she's going to be a criminal or a CEO.
Oh yeah, they're like, all these personality traits. Criminal. CEO.
CEO.
Yeah.
One and the same.
Hopefully not both, though.
Hopefully not both.
Hopefully, like, really not both.
We don't want that.
Let's not do tax fraud, please.
No, please no.
Yeah.
But Hudson finds out about it because Gavin has like a pipe burst where he works. He's like, I can't go pick her up. I need you to get her. I don't want her to be waiting. And so he's pissed that it's happening. They're not doing what Caroline wants. And then, of course, they've also been lying to him about it. Because I do feel like if they would have told Hudson about these shenanigans, I think he probably would have been on board with it.
Yeah. He's just like, don't keep secrets from me. He's like, I'm your fun uncle.
Exactly.
Yeah. But maybe they're competing to be fun uncles, you know?
I think they probably are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Gavin would probably win. I feel like he's the one that would let her do the most unhinged things.
Yeah.
And take the least amount of convincing. I feel like Hudson's like the fun uncle that also is like somewhat logical.
Yeah. But then we also find out like Hudson took his own DNA test because he was like, I just wanted to check. And like, he has no relation at all to Juniper.
Yeah.
So that rules out that Gavin was the father.
And you're
which
like, is even more confusing, right?
Yeah. Because you're like, who could it be?
But then what's interesting is like when he shows up, Allie's there and she's like kind of incognito. She's like a hat and everything because she happened to see in like a bag in Gavin's car that had like some ballet stuff and she kind of put two and two together. And she is furious about how the girls in the class are being treated because it's very reminiscent to how her mom treats ballerinas. Like there's yelling, there's throwing of a water bottle. It's super not great. And then I love this kind of line that she says to him because like Hudson's getting very pissed off because Juniper's in this class, even though none of it's like directed at Juniper. He like wants to do something, and she was like, "I will handle that. Handle it. This is my ocean. Like you need to trust that I've got this." And then
So good.
it's so good, right? And I'm kind of like, "Ooh, like what do you got in store?" And then she tells him because she's pissed now that to bring Juniper to her house, and he says to Juniper like, "You better hope she calms down on the drive over." Like
Yeah.
she is mad.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like I'm like, okay, what is she mad about? Is she mad about the lying? Is she mad about like the teacher and the like why is she mad at Juniper?
Yeah.
And we find out.
We find out. It's definitely kind of like a little bit of all the above. Because Allie handles the situation by first explaining to Juniper that she is not ready for point shoes and that she still needs to work on the basics. And Juniper is like really frustrated by this and like kind of tries to like battle her on it, be like, yes, I can. Like, look, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, really? Really? Okay, show me. Go on up. And she points out, like, this is bad. This is wrong. Like, we need to work on the basics. Like, and then she offers to train her, which shouldn't that be every single young dancer's dream to be trained by like the top professional ballerina? Like, almost like it's like if you were going to be trained by Misty Copeland, you know?
Right.
A prima donna is offering to train you and you're like, that'd be amazing. Yes. But they of course have to keep all of this a secret from Caroline, which is the wrong decision, honestly. But Allie's just like, you know what, if you're gonna learn, you might as well learn from me because I can teach you and you won't be emotionally abused by all of this stuff that's happening. And so then we see Hudson, who is getting fitted for a tux because he is going to go with Allie to the gala. And he's just like, I'm going to pull out all the stops. I'm going to get fitted. He gets his leave approved for the entire weekend, just in case Allie wants to stay in the city. And he's like, let's see if I can get, some lucky one-on-one time with Allie. And he starts to bring his A game. And he is studying up the company's website to be prepared to meet all of her friends so he can know everyone. Like, he is in it to win it, to impress her. And he makes it very clear right there that he is invested in Allie and her life, and he wants to be a part of it, which is just so sweet.
It's really sweet.
So he gets to the gala, and he meets Vasily and Isaac, and they're trying to make it clear to Hudson that he is out of his element at the gala, but he just doesn't allow them to rile him up. He's like, whatever. He makes a few comments here and there about Allie sleeping with Isaac, and then like reiterates his promise of just wanting to worship her body for hours, which definitely turns both of them on and leads us wanting to know more what's to come. We're like, okay, are you gonna? That'd be great. Let's do it.
That'd be great. Like now?
Yeah. And then he makes this comment of like, first means nothing, last means everything. So he's like, I don't care who came before you because no one's coming after me. And you're like, oh, Hudson.
Oh.
Oh my.
Okay.
I like it.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. And Allie also is wearing this like super sexy, gorgeous, like skin tight black gown. And we get to later see him take that off of her. But it's just like, she is looking like a fox. And you're like, yes, queen. Very good. Yes. And basically, like, the rest of the gala is like watching an episode of Gossip Girl or like reality TV with tons of backstabbing ballerinas just talking shit about each other. And then Eva seems to just intentionally dump on Allie about her recovery too. And it's a hot mess. And Allie just tells Hudson, just take me home. Like, I'm done with the drama. Like, let's just get out of here. And you're like, yeah. Please, get out of here.
Please.
Go.
And she doesn't want to talk about her feelings at first, right? Like she gets home and she's like clearly upset. And he's like, can we talk about it? And she's like, no, I just want 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, what do you want for 5 minutes? Also, I feel like you need more than 5 minutes.
You need more than
But
5 minutes.
didn't he promise hours?
He did.
He did. So she wins five, and we kind of get it. I mean, not like hours, but more to come on that. But she's like, I want you to pretend that you want me. And he was like,
no problem.
don't have to pretend that, right? And fulfill like his comments about he would make sure that she would have 2 orgasms, right? And he's like, I've wanted you since I was 17. But I don't want you to use sex to hide your feelings. Like, I want more than 5 minutes. And I'm like, don't we all, Hudson? Don't we all? Right? And she keeps like pushing him, right? And she was like, well, like now or never. It's like the only offer I'm ever going to give you. And he's like, I want to do the right thing.
Take me or leave me.
Or leave me. And he's like, but then he says this comment that I'm just like, oh, damn. He's like, I'm not above using sex as a way to keep you. And I'm like, what kind of sex god are you that you think that you can use sex to keep her?
I want to find out.
I would like to find out. We're going to talk, like, and she does kind of find out, which we'll talk more about. It's an incredibly hot scene in the kitchen. And then it gets stopped because Ava comes home. Which then, like, Allie feels bad for, like, using Hudson. And I'm like, in order to use someone, they'd have to not want to be used. He was very much clear he will take you however he gets you.
And she tries to participant.
He was a willing participant. And would be a willing participant later if you'd like as well.
Yeah.
And she like tries to convince herself like this will never happen again. And she's like, Hudson, this will never happen. I'm like, yes, it will. Yes, it will. Give it a couple days.
And Eva's like, make sure you bleach that, please. We eat there.
And
it's like,
I'm like, do you? Because your fridge had no food.
It's like, well, Hudson was eating there.
He was.
But also, yeah,
he enjoyed his dinner.
That. He did enjoy his dinner.
Just saying.
But you should definitely bleach that and clean that. Because, yeah.
Well, and then she continues to be the problem because then she just shows up unexpectedly when they're back at the beach house. And like Hudson's there, Juniper's there. And immediately Juniper's like, oh, Auntie Allie, Aunt Ava's here. And she was like, wait, what is going on? And Juniper's like, oh, you're my aunt. Lena's my mom.
Juniper, come on. Stop.
Like,
don't spill all these secrets.
It's funny because like to some ways she has like no filter. And then other times she's like super great at hiding secrets. It's really funny. And then that's also where, like you pointed out earlier, Hudson shares, by the way, I took a DNA test. I know to just make sure that I'm not related to her. Gavin's not the father.
Yeah. But you're so bummed. You're like
bummed. I'm like, but who's the baby daddy? Like now I have like even more questions. And then like in typical Eva fashion, because we cannot continue to be anything but a pain in the ass, she continues to be shitty towards Allie and Anne. And so it's like just with like all of her comments, it's just horrible. Like, Anne's getting divorced and she's like, why are you still wearing your rings? Why aren't you out there dating? And I'm just like, what is wrong with you?
Read the room.
She cannot.
She's
very self-absorbed.
But also like, you can't blame her. Like, look at how she grew up. Like, she was not taught to be self-aware or be empathetic. Like, none of those things were taught to her or even like showed as an example. So it's just like, I hate on her, but at the same time, I'm like, but you don't know any better. Like, you just don't. And that's sad.
True.
Because like, you should. Really sad. Yeah. So you hope that there's like a redemption arc for her in some way. You're like, maybe.
I don't know if she gets one. Like, I don't feel like she gets one in this book.
No. But, like, you hope one day she'll grow
like,
out
eventually
of it.
In life.
Yeah, eventually. When she's, like, 50, maybe.
Maybe. It's hard because I had to keep reminding myself she's, like, I think 25 in this book. Yeah. And I'm like, but she acts like she's, like, a 16-year-old girl throughout most of it. I'm just like, you are 25. You are a grown-ass woman. Get your shit together, Eva.
Yeah. But maybe, like, after the accident happened with Lena, she just, like, emotionally was stunted.
It's possible.
Like, she has her own PTSD, and she just, like, doesn't know how to function and is just stuck in that mindset.
I think she just watched her mom be a master manipulator and learned she could get her way faster. I mean, there are kids that do that learn how to manipulate people super, super well. And it's almost like it's super scary.
Yeah. But Okay, now it's time for Allie and Hudson to go camping because Juniper was like, "Come with us on our family camping trip," and Allie's like, "I've never been camping before, but okay, sure."
Sure.
Like, what could go wrong or what could go right? And so she goes to this family for 3 days, and they get put in this cabin that has only one bed, so woo, one bed trope. And we all know sex is definitely going to happen at some point, except they bring sleeping bags and they sleep in separate sleeping bags. And you're like, come on, like rip those off. Let's do it.
Yes.
And the camping trip is fairly calm until Juniper jumps into the lake and does not surface immediately. And like Hudson starts counting, like, okay, like how long has she been under? And it's been too long and sends everyone into panic mode. And Hudson, of course, being the lifesaver he is, dives in and goes after her. And it is a terrifying moment, honestly, to read, especially since we know that Rebecca Yarros does not have a problem with killing off characters that we like. And we're like, I'm thinking of you, Liam, and like my heart is still broken about that. Like, I'm not
Correct.
over it. So
Like,
you're
we
like, oh
don't
my
kill
gosh.
children, Rebecca.
Please no. Yeah, like Juniper cannot die. Like you already killed her mother. Like let's not do that, please.
Yeah.
And
And
thankfully
her
Hudson.
dad, right? Like her
Yeah, and the
biological
dad.
mother was dead and her dad is dead. Like,
Yeah, like oh God, can't
I'm
do
just
this.
like, this poor girl. I'm like,
Or like my mind went to like, oh my God, is she gonna be like in a coma, like in the hospital or something like that? Like who knows? Like I don't know where Rebecca Yarros is going with this. But
I was
thankfully
worried. I was
Hudson.
very traumatized.
Yeah, I was traumatized. But thankfully Hudson saves Juniper. And he was just like, she was wearing that bright orange swimsuit, which again, water safety. Never have your kids in like blue or watercolored swimsuits for this exact reason. Like, you want to be able to see them in the water. So the brighter the suit, the better. And thankfully, like we are able to like save her. And we see Caroline right there being nicer to Allie. And like they're both just like holding on to each other. And Caroline shares with her some of the fears about like why she doesn't want Juniper to look for her birth parents until she's 18. And this leads Allie to believe that Juniper needs to compete in the classic to show her talent to Caroline and that they need to keep everything a secret until then. Because they're like, there's no, like, if we tell her right now that like everything's been going on, she's just going to like shut us out. So we need to convince her by showing her because she's just like Juniper in that way. She needs to see the facts, needs to see that Juniper is a talented dancer. And again, that like Allie's a good person. So we can hopefully keep this ruse going.
Yeah, I think the problem that is hard for me to wrap my head around in this situation is they all, like multiple times it's brought up of how like uncomfortable Caroline is and how worried she is about Juniper looking for her birth family and the fears that she has of her being taken away. And I feel like they're like, well, we would never do that. Like, we would, how dare, like, we would never ever want to do that to Caroline, which I completely understand. I don't think they take a minute to realize, like, how Caroline must feel
Yeah.
because it is, I mean, it's one of the reasons why my husband and I decided not to adopt domestically because depending on, like in the United States, what state you live in and what state you would adopt like an infant child from, especially through like a private adoption of an infant, like there are waiting periods where even while and you've probably seen this on the news, right? Where biological families can take back their child if the time hasn't passed, and it does vary, like I said, based on state. And there are some cases where there have been even this is like typically more years ago, where it's been like a longer period of time than one would think. So
Yeah.
it is hard for her. And I don't know if there is enough thought from the other characters in the book about like what that must feel like for Caroline, especially since her husband also died. Like Juniper is like what she has left
Yeah.
in a
I
lot of ways.
definitely don't agree with their strategy here. Like they should have told Caroline, and it's like, yeah, like she should have, like Juniper should have waited till she was 18, but she didn't. And now you got to face the facts. And like hiding it from her, I do not agree with that at all whatsoever.
Or just
Because
having
I've
more
had,
empathy for it, right? Like for
yeah,
like Caroline's point of view.
yes, exactly. And like one of my best friends has adopted children, and same thing. Like there was this like period of like worry until things were finalized, which for me though, in this book, I'm kind of like, but things are finalized, right? Like she is like it was a closed adoption, it was finalized, but I do understand like not knowing who the father was and how that plays into it. Like, and yeah, it's tricky. So I get her worries, but also I'm like, but you've had it for 10 years in this adoption. I would think it'd be safe.
I think from a legal perspective, at this point, based on like what they all know, definitely. I think the
Yeah.
problem is, especially like in a closed adoption, I think the worry would be you like Caroline doesn't even know who Juniper's biological family is. And so like if they come into the picture, how does that change everything? And then we learned later, like there's a lot of stipulations around the adoption, which is also why Caroline's very stressed about all of it. But it's the one thing I wish there was a little bit more of, because I do feel like it's kind of like, oh, well, Caroline is like, she has all these fears and she has all these worries and she's kind of like seen as overprotective. And I'm like, I don't know how many people like go, anyone care to know why? Has anyone asked
Yeah.
her? Or
Let me
just
ask.
been supportive of like, given all that she's been through?
Yeah, exactly. But it's really interesting that Rebecca Yarros is, including this in her book because, she is an adoptive parent. So like it's good to shed light on it, but yeah, at the same time it's like there should have been more questioning like for Caroline's sake. Like, are
Yes.
you okay? Like, let's check in here, please. So moving forward, also, we have Allie telling Hudson about when she fell at her Giselle performance, how like why she fell. She's like, I could have sworn I saw you at the performance the night I tore my Achilles. And she's like, I feel silly for saying that. Like, of course you weren't there. Like, and that's not, the reason, but I just got distracted. And then he confirms, I was there. And you're like, what? After 10 years, you finally showed up? Oh my God. He's like, yeah, I have an alert on my phone that I get an email to notify me anytime your name, Alessandra Rousseau, and Giselle appear together in a headline. He's like, because I'll know that you got that role. He's like, I needed to know. And so he says, like, yeah, I was there. And she tells him that the middle seat of the very last row is always empty because it's saved for her in her contract with tickets at will call under his name. But I'm also like, you should have told him that.
Right? Like, how the hell was he supposed to know that?
Yeah. And she's like, over 10 years, like, not bitter, but just like disappointed, that he's never there. And it's like, but he never knew.
Yeah, well,
Come
so
on.
unrelated, but in Ricky Bobby or Talladega Nights, where I know it's completely unrelated, but it's what popped in my head here because he leaves tickets right at will call for his dad every time, but like his dad knows that, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why did you never like? How was he supposed to know that there was always tickets for him? Like that's
Yeah.
a very, I would
And like
never
he even
think
like
that.
goes up there and he tries to buy the ticket and like he never says his name, but he's just like, I need to buy a ticket. And he's like, and I couldn't get tickets, so I just like stood there. And it's like he knew. If he had
Yeah.
known, like, oh my gosh, it was so silly. But at least here we finally get her admitting that she needs him. And we get incredible sex that's been like pent up for 10 years. We're like,
Yes.
finally. Finally. Pent up 10-year orgasm explodes. Um, and that's at the camp. So we're also like, okay, we're at a campsite, we're having sex for the first time, but whatever. And then they stay a little bit extra longer to, enjoy themselves now that they have crossed that threshold. And they get back from camping, and unfortunately here, Eva strikes again because she's just kicking a dog when they're down, always. And when Allie gets back from the camping trip, she finds out that Eva took her part in the Equinox ballet that was literally made for her. It's just like, are you kidding me? So while Eva was like with Allie and like pretending to be a good sister and like practicing with each other, because she went to her and was like, hey, will you teach me some of the stuff so I can like get a leg up on like a soloist part, hopefully. And Allie's like, yeah, sure, like you're my sister, I'll help you. And she like was practicing together. Apparently Eva was like recording that the whole time without Allie knowing. And so like got literally Allie at some points like stumbling or like not doing things perfectly because she's still in recovery.
Well,
But she,
and she's not expecting someone to be recording her. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, she wasn't in
yeah,
like performance mode.
yeah, it's like you're literally just kind of like screwing around in your ballet studio, being like, oh, do this. It's like, but don't really do it like that, like, because I'm just like playing around. But, Eva records it and then posts it on the Seconds app. And so the entire world, all of social media is seeing this and just commenting on it. And then on top of that, like Eva literally does a side by side comparison of like Eva doing the part. And literally it looks as if Eva is like the better dancer, the better sister in comparison. And Allie is so hurt by this and pissed, and rightfully so. It's not okay. But in the wrong way, Allie then uses this situation to try and push Hudson away because she's like, it's because I was gone. I wasn't focused. Like, I need to be focused. I can't be distracted by you. And you're like, no, you're making the wrong choice. No. And pushes him away. But that doesn't last long because then he gets a call to go out on a rescue and she is just worried about him. And she ends up waiting for him at his house to make sure he's okay. She's like, as soon as I said those words, I regretted them and I just need to know you're okay. And so he's just like, she's there in the rain, just waiting. You're like, oh, baby girl.
Right. And he's like, I have 100% return rate on storms. And I'm like, when I read that, I was like, do not kill Hudson, Rebecca. Do not kill Hudson.
At that point, literally, I was like, she better not. She better not. This needs to end. Happy ending. I cannot have Hudson dying in the ocean. Like,
right? Ugh. This is not, what is that? Was Ashton Kutcher and Kevin Costner. It's also about
so good.
Coast Guard swimmers. That's like what I thought of. I was like, if we kill him, this is not okay, Rebecca.
No.
Not okay.
I could not handle that.
So when they're at Hudson's house, they talk about like a variety of things we learn, right? Kind of throughout the book. Hudson is kind of coming up on like his contract with the Coast Guard. So he's trying to figure out where he's going to go next. He's also up for a promotion. Allie's trying to figure out like what she's going to do about Eva. They're trying to figure out what's going to happen between the two of them. And finally, Allie's like, I want to be with you until I go back to New York in 5 weeks. Which is just like, I mean, like, it's like a punch to the gut. Because, like, I can, like, all I imagined was he was like, oh, yes, deflate.
There's a timeline.
And there's a timeline. Right?
But again, he's like, I'll take what I can get.
Right? And he's like, it's not long enough, but I'll take it.
Yeah. I have no choice.
And then, I have no choice. Then, like, there's more drama because there hasn't been enough drama. Anne has, like, she's in the house by herself, right? Like, that night, digging through boxes. She finds Juniper's birth certificate. So she's, like, convinced that she knows who Juniper's father is. It's Everett, who's another dancer. So, like, they get him to come out, right? And he thinks he's there to help, like, Allie train and work with her.
He shows up because he's like, hey, girls, I'm here. Let's train. You're like,
I'm like,
this is the baby daddy?
This is the baby daddy?
Was this just like a one night like experiment to see if you were gay?
I have questions.
Had sex and had a baby? Like, I don't know.
He says he doesn't have sex with women. And
yeah.
And it's like, well, I just agreed to be on the birth certificate because Lena was like, oh, the father is a one-night stand in San Francisco. And then your mom, because clearly the mom has to do something with all this, she basically was like, hey, if you do this and pretend to be the baby daddy for legal purposes, like, you can train with my girls. I'll pay for your room and board. I'll get you a slot at the Classic. And that way you're more likely to get a contract. So basically, I will help you with your career. And so I guess, like, from his perspective, and he's probably what, 17, 18 at this time is what I assumed.
Yeah.
Probably made a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not my baby. I'm going to pretend to sign my rights away.
Yeah.
And so then we have, like, some more chaos because...
But we still don't know who the real father is.
We still don't know who the father is because it's not Everett. No one knows at this point. Yeah. And we get some more chaos because Kenna's mom shows up. There's, like, this line where she's like, I didn't call your mom, I called mine. And I'm like, oh, shit. Because
like, is this a good thing?
This is a good thing, right? Because we know her, like, Sophie was a horrible teacher. Eloise, which is Kenna's mom, who is also a ballet dancer and teacher, I'm like, are you like her? Like, Kenna, why would we call someone who might be mean? But
Yeah.
that's not the sense. We get that she's definitely strict, but I don't think she's mean.
Yeah. And we also still don't really know that their mother, Sophie, is in assisted living. Because like I
No.
said, I didn't call your mom, I called mine. It's like, okay, but again, because we're assuming that like her mother is, teaching these workshops and she's too busy.
Too busy and doesn't care about her own daughter. Which, I mean, given everything that's happened,
Also is
isn't
true.
surprising. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so her, Kenna's mom is like gonna train Allie, and then Juniper's there one day, and she was like, and she notices something in Juniper, and she was like, would you like for me to train you too? And Allie like makes this comment like, be careful what you wish, like careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
And Juniper's like, yes, right? Like, and I get it. Like, that's every young girl's dream, to be trained by some of the best people in the business. And so there's like tons of training, right? Everett stays. His boyfriend kind of comes and stays some weekends. Kenna's boyfriend, who I think is like a surgical resident, comes and stays some weekends. And basically, it's all about getting ready for the classic. And it finally gets here. And I'm like, okay, there's going to be big drama. And nothing from this point on is what I expected. So, right, Caroline's like forced to go with Gavin and Hudson under the ruse, like, you're here to support Hudson and Allie because Allie's going to perform. And Ava's like, what do you mean Allie's going to perform? That wasn't in the program. And I'm like,
this isn't in the program. How dare you?
Right?
And again,
Gavin's
they haven't
talked
spoken
to her.
to Ava. Yeah. They're like, you stole my part, you backstabbing bitch. Like,
yes.
Fuck you.
And then I love how Gavin is like the one standing up to Ava at this point. He's like, have reached the fuck around and find out portion of the event. And I'm just
so
like,
Riddick. So Riddick.
Yes,
so Riddick. I love it.
Exactly what I thought. And I was like, you were about to find out. So Allie performs. It's like, obviously it's gorgeous. And it becomes very clear, like, there is nothing wrong with Allie. Like, she still has all of the talent that she's always had. So then Ava loses her part. And then the best part is she gets like payback because Everett has filmed it, is filmed everything. They figured out the Seconds app account password and post it. So now it's going viral, which is exactly like what she did to Allie to begin with. And I'm just like, payback's a bitch, isn't it? Karma. Well, then I thought Caroline would find out about Juniper dancing like when she came on stage. She actually sees her name in the program and she freaks the fuck out. And that's when we learn like this was never about Caroline not wanting Juniper to dance or hating ballerinas. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Caroline does hate ballerinas. It's because one of the conditions of the adoption is that Juniper could never do ballet.
Which is a weird stipulation to put in there.
It really is, but not when you think about who her mom is. Because, which is, I think, what ends up happening, right? So, and then Caroline finds out that Lena was her mom. Like, she had no idea who the birth parents were. They were just contacted and told us. And they're like, who's the birth father? They're like, well, it was Everett signed things, but he's not really the birth father. And then, like, she starts freaking out because she's like, if he signed it and signed away parental rights, like the birth father then could have rights to Juniper. And so all I thought of was like, you are having like your worst fears as an adoptive parent are coming true. Like you are having a mental breakdown right now.
Yeah. If the birth father was never notified, he could contest it.
Correct. Even 10 years later. And right? Or because Juniper's dancing, like that's a violation of the adoption agreement. Who knows what was said and there. And all I thought, like I sobbed so hard during this part because I was just like, that would be the worst fear for an adoptive parent. Like, and to see that come to life and know that it's nothing that you did everything right. And there's nothing that you try to protect her and you can't. And you're in a situation now where other people made choices for you. Oh.
It's so bad.
I do
think, though, that, like, Caroline probably should have communicated that.
Probably.
Like, here's the reason why you can't take ballet. When I adopted you, it was part of the agreement. So,
or at least to her, at least to her brothers.
At least like maybe, brothers. Yeah, like Juniper wouldn't understand. Like a 10-year-old isn't going to get this. But yeah, like then Gavin wouldn't have secretly been taking her to ballet classes. So,
but there was also a lot of conditions of like not like being anonymous, and they like the adopt or biological parents wanted it to be a closed adoption, which Caroline, like, I don't think really necessarily, because she even makes a comment like, I didn't want the closed adoption, like that wasn't what I wanted.
Yeah, she's like, I would have been fine if it was open. Like, I have no problem having communication with the family, but like, they didn't want that.
They
So,
didn't want that.
okay.
And now you've put everything at risk. So
Yeah.
I was
It's,
devastated for her in that moment.
yeah. But then we see Juniper come out and perform, and she's just beautiful, just an amazing ballerina. And it's clear from the way that she dances that she is a Rousseau girl, which means Allie and Anne have just got to do something to fix this. And they make Ava help. They're like, you are going to help us fix this problem, and we're going to make this right. And then everything starts clicking for Allie. And she's like, I know who the father is. And it turns out it was Vasily, who is the creepy old guy who was like the owner of like the ballet.
Like the artistic director, yeah. I'm just like,
yeah, and you're like, ew,
ew,
ew, gross. And it's like, well, how do you know? What? And it turns out that like there's this whole thing that he basically had an affair with Lena, and the baby happened. And he himself has like an ironclad prenup, which if he had that affair would pretty much violate it. And he would just, have no money,
I guess.
He wouldn't be able to do anything. And so basically they figured this all out, that like our mother must have used this against you to get Lena into the ballet, because Lena didn't get in it the first year. And so Lena then took advantage of a situation, which you're like, oh no, you took a page out of your mother's book. That was not a good idea. But then like Lena and her mother like literally took advantage of everything. And they're like, listen, she's pregnant. This is what you're going to do. She's going to have the baby. She's going to give it away. But you're going to set Lena up, and like you're going to have this happen. And basically,
he did, technically.
And he
I
did.
guess.
Yeah. And this all clicked for Allie. And then they found out that Eva blackmailed him with this information earlier in the summer to then get the part that she wanted. And he just didn't want to come out about the baby again, because all that was going to happen. And he had no problem signing away his parental rights. And as they're on the yacht for the party, like for after the classic, they like confront him about all this stuff and say, here's the two papers. Here's a paper with like an NDA saying like, we're not going to say anything about everything. And then here's your paper signing away your parental rights so that like Caroline can feel safe with keeping Juniper. And he's like, no problem. I will sign that. I never wanted this kid. And the most awful thing happens is he says that child does not exist. And Juniper overhears this. And it's just devastating to her to hear that. And like Allie grabs her contract and like looks up and sees Juniper, and she's like, oh my God, how much did she hear? Like hearing that like you don't exist and you don't matter, like,
for anyone that's hard, right? But like if you're a kid that was adopted and you already have like more than likely feelings of like abandonment, that's even worse.
So terrible. And then also like you're seeing like this is a creepy old guy, like ew. Like it just gives me like Harvey Weinstein,
Yes.
Harvey Weinstein vibes, where like he took advantage of a young woman, and then like yeah, she turned around and took advantage of him right back, but like just not
okay.
Not okay. But like at least we got Juniper out of it, like she's like a wonderful little gem. But then it gets really scary because they're on this yacht and it's in the middle of a storm, which I'm like, why?
Have we learned nothing?
Storms? Have we learned nothing from this? Like, don't go in the water. Just don't. And it gets scary because then a wave comes up and like knocks Juniper off of the boat and into the water, the freezing cold water. And Allie sees this and she's like, 1 minute I saw Juniper there and the next she was gone, and like just terrifying. And she's like, I can't lose her. I cannot lose her. And Allie just jumps into the water after her, and you're like, Rebecca Yarros, what are you doing to me? Is someone going to die? Who's going to drown? Oh my God,
Not
I can't handle
okay.
this. I cannot handle this right now. And you're just like, and they have to just tread water in the freezing, freezing water because it's in the Atlantic and it's just so cold. And like they're yelling up at the boat. Hudson sees them and he's just like, 5 minutes because they have to turn the boat around, right? Or they have to like get the rescue boat out. And they're waiting there and they're treading this water. And Allie is like, we need to talk about what you overheard. Like, just in case these are our last moments, like, you need to know that, like, you are loved and you are wanted and all this stuff. But, like, how could you focus while you're treading cold water? Like, I can't. I can't even tread normal water. I'm
Carry
just
on like
like,
an in-depth conversation about like life. I'm just like,
yeah,
how are you not in shock right now? You're also
I
like in a
know.
dress.
Yeah, like, you can't.
Like,
And she's like, I lost my shoes. And Allie's like, I lost mine too. Guess we gotta go shopping. And you're like, there
and
you go. There's the bright
I'm
side.
like, great attitude, but also you might die.
I die. And also, I'm like, you're a ballerina. Like, you don't have a whole lot of body fat on you. Like, you're cold. Like,
Right?
whew. But, Allie is super strong and she's got like one arm around her and like is like side stroke swimming to, get to safety. And thankfully, like Hudson does save them. But she's like, you better not jump in this cold water, buddy. And that tucks. But they get to safety and you're like, oh, thank God. Everyone's alive. Thank God. And afterwards, Hudson is just like, that's my breaking point. He confesses how much he loves Allie and he needs her. And of course, then they have hot, hot sex again in the ballet studio, which, ooh la la.
Right.
Like,
Well
there's
done.
some parts where he's just like, put your leg up on that bar. And you're like, yes, sir.
Well done, Rebecca. Well
I
done. We'll
will.
get to that.
We will. We will get to that.
And so, like, you have this, like, you almost drama, almost die, hot sex. Next morning, Hudson's like, oh, FYI, I changed my first choice from the Coast Guard from Cape Cod to New York so I can be closer to you, which is like so thoughtful, so wonderful because Allie's not had people choose her, and he clearly is trying to. And so she's happy, and then she's also like pissed at him, like, well, you didn't tell me, you're giving up on your dream of Alaska. And like he has to go to work. And then Gavin shows up to get Gavin's truck. And he tries to talk some sense in Allie, like, why are you mad at him? Like, he clearly loves you. He would do anything for you. And then, because Gavin also has like no filter, which usually I love, he lets it slip about how he's the one that picked Hudson up from the hospital after the car accident when he was covered in your blood alley. Like, I saw him not speak for 4 days. And she's like, excuse me, what?
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 I was told he never showed.
What do you mean my blood? What?
What do you mean he was there? What do you mean?
What do you mean? And then
What?
Gavin's like, oops, I shouldn't have said anything. Bye.
Yeah, and you're like, we have questions.
We have a lot of questions. And then, right,
Yes.
so then Hudson, once he's done, he comes back. He sees Allie, I think she's like sitting on the beach, and he thinks they're going to talk about him putting New York as his top choice. Like, that's what the mindset he's going into this conversation. And she's like, I know you were there. And he was like, oh, fuck. So now he has to tell her the truth, right? Which is, she had always thought that they were supposed to meet at the Cove that night, the night of the Classic, right, 10 years ago. And they didn't. He's like, no, we did meet there. He's like, I was actually in the car behind you and Lena. Like, he didn't see them hit the tree, but as soon as he turned the corner, he saw that they had. And he's the one that ran down there. The car was super smashed up. And Lena, who was conscious, told him to save Allie. Which is super confusing to Allie because, like, all of her memories have always been that she thought Lena saved her.
Which I'm like, is that just like a ghost? Like, had Lena like already died? And like she was like seeing her like memory, like, oh.
I know. That's what I thought at first, or I thought maybe that like she had saved herself, but she had, from like a kind of like a PTSD protection standpoint, had thought like Lena was with her. So I did not see that Hudson was the one that ended up pulling her out. So he is the one that he pulls her out. And when he goes to get her, he has to like, it's really hard for him to open the door. He has to cut her seatbelt. The car's already on fire. He takes her, to a safe spot. She's bleeding from the head, which if you've ever seen a head wound, it looks way worse than it usually is, right? But he's worried. And we have to keep in mind, he is like a 16, no, I guess he's probably 18 at this point, 18-year-old boy.
Yeah,
like he has no idea
about
about any
like
of
the
these
girl
things.
I have a crush on and I love is like bleeding. Like I need to
Bleeding.
stop the bleeding.
So he takes like maybe a little bit longer than he intended to do that, goes to turn back to go get Lena, and then the car explodes. So not only is this traumatizing, right, for obviously like Lena, Allie, and their family, but like think about why he just watched someone die.
Yeah. Like, oh.
And then this ring that Allie thought that Lena gave her, like when she pulled her from the accident and everything, was one that Hudson gave her at the beach. So it was the ring from their mom that was given to Lena at Classic a couple years before, and she gave it to Hudson at the Classic, which is the scene that Anne oversaw because she knew Hudson was in love with Allie. And it was meant to be a message that apparently Hudson and Allie had talked about. She wouldn't sign any contracts until she knew where he was going to be done, and they would continue this like kind of once he got done with basic. And it would send
Like
a
a
message,
little promise ring.
kind of like a promise ring, right? Like it would send a message that Lena had their back. So like kind of as a way to like tell mom like back the F off.
Yeah.
So we get this impression, right? Like Allie chose Hudson before that. She doesn't remember any of this. Like she was gonna wait on him. And then her mom, being the queen bitch that she is, lied about what happened, right? To Allie. When Hudson was there at the hospital, kicks him out, tells him never to come back. He doesn't listen. He comes back. She says Allie's awake, but she doesn't remember anything. And if you continue to try and derail her life, I'm going to tell her that you could have saved them both and you didn't. And I'm just like, he's barely an adult.
Child.
He's like a newborn adult. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, like you don't say that. You don't do that.
You don't do that. Like it's horrible. And then Allie's pissed because like she's spent the last 10 years thinking Lena's death was her fault. And then she like kind of breaks up.
Thinking that like,
he didn't love
Hudson
her.
like didn't love her, didn't show up. And you're
Didn't
like,
care.
he did.
He did. He's the reason you're alive. Right? And then like she doesn't realize that like Gavin's also pissed at him because Gavin's pissed that he didn't save Lena. But the whole thing is if Gavin would have been the one behind him, Allie would be dead because Gavin would have saved Lena first, right? It's a shit situation. And so Allie feels like
and
he
then
lied
Hudson
to her.
feels bad that like he's like, I shouldn't have put you in that car. He's like, you should have been in my car. Or like, no.
Like all of it. It's just horrible, right? Like because it's an accident. No one's at fault. So she breaks up with them, but then she's like, it's not really a breakup because we've already had an expiration date. And I'm like, why are we kicking him while he's down? And I think the part with me that was super frustrating, and it felt a little bit like Violet and Xaden, where there are times, especially like in Iron Flame, where he's trying so hard to like win her trust back, and she like just like refuses to see his point of view or to kind of, she's just being difficult. All I thought was, Allie, he watched your sister die. You think, yes, you've had guilt. So is he. Like he's had guilt because he doesn't understand why he couldn't have saved you both.
Yeah,
and then
he wished he could have.
He wished he could have. Like he would have. He sacrifices his life and puts his life at risk every single day based on his job. It's really heartbreaking because I'm like, why can't you see what I get that you're upset. I get that you feel lied to. I get all those things. But also, have you thought what it's been like for him?
Which again, like that's kind of a constant theme in this book. Like you have a little bit of self-awareness, but not as much empathy for others. Like not thinking about Caroline and how her feelings are about the adoption and everything. Like not thinking about what Hudson has gone through and how he must have felt through all of this. Like come on, guys. You just want to I want to reach in the book and just like shake them and be like,
I do.
Get your shit together.
Yeah. But I think that's the beauty of it because it's all of her characters that she writes are super flawed, even when they are the hero.
Yeah.
Or
Which,
they're the main character.
Makes it realistic because that's how we all are as people. Like we do our best, but we're human and like we are flawed as well. And like we want to shake ourselves or like we want to shake our friends to be like, what are you doing?
Well, and it's easy, right? Like when you're reading a book to go like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you think this way? Why aren't you,
Yeah.
being empathetic when I'm like in a fictional world that has been
Yeah.
created?
Yeah. But then you take those lessons from those books and you try to apply
Hopefully.
them and you're like, hopefully, yes. If you have that level of self-awareness and intelligence, emotional intelligence yourself, of course, you hope this is the case. Like maybe I should be more considerate about other people and how they're feeling.
Maybe.
Shocker. Maybe.
Shocker.
Maybe that would work out for me. Yeah. And now it's time to confront dear old mom who has dementia about what happened. And Allie legit just doesn't take any shit from mom at this point. And I'm like, good for you. And she needs to confirm with her what happened after the accident. But another shocker, Lena apparently wanted the baby, but her mom wouldn't let her keep it. And you're like, oh my God. And so watching Allie then stand up to her mom is like therapy for everyone who has ever dealt with a narcissistic parent. And you also feel like it's, in a way, retribution for Lena. Like, Allie's like, Lena isn't here to do this. And, like, she wasn't able to get through to you, but I'm going to stand up for her and, like, tell you what's what. And so, like, she goes to see her mom, and her mom tries to pull the same old shit of, like, fifth, third. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And we also learn in this moment that her mom does have dementia and is in this assisted living facility that like literally the caretakers are like, she's having a good-ish day, but she's only given one word answers. Like she's, we'll see how it goes. And you're like, oh my God, she hasn't been in like a workshop intensive teaching young kids this whole time. Like she's actually just been not, I won't say trapped, but she's been literally in an institution. And you're like, oh, but that doesn't necessarily excuse all your behavior when you were not in that state of mind. Like, so you're very happy for Allie to kind of have this moment of like clarity and like cleansing herself and just letting herself go with her mother. She's just like, I'm done. And you do kind of hear like Eva being like, I'll promise to come visit you later. And you're like, yeah, that's where that is. That's where that is. And we just let that lie. You're like, okay, let her be. Let her be. She's now reaping what she sowed. Like some of your kids are just not going to come back to take care of you because you were terrible. Sorry. But we fast forward a week and Hudson shows up in New York to try and get Allie back. But he sees that she just appears to be happy with her friends and the company. And he's just, honestly, at this point, also, I was worried again. I'm like, oh my God, is he going to step into traffic and get hit by a car? I was so worried. I trusted nothing at this point.
Well, we
Like,
can't,
he's like waiting
right?
for the signal to like cross the street. And he's like, I debated like how fast I could like get there and avoid the cars. And I was like, no, 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 no,
No.
no, no, no. Let's not do that, please. Thank God that doesn't happen. But instead, he's like, oh, I see how happy she is. Like, I'm not going to bother her. Like, because he was calling out to her, but he just couldn't get her attention. And he decides then that he's like, I'm going to call in my favor and I'm going to get transferred, to New York. At least that's what we think he's doing.
Yeah.
But instead, he's headed to Alaska. And he doesn't tell her this, which Gavin's like, that's so stupid. Why aren't you communicating? Like, why aren't you calling? He's like, if she wants to talk to me, she'll call me. It's like, stop it. Stop it. You guys are so dumb. Like, come on. Meanwhile, on the other side, Allie has not signed her contract with the company. And she also has like a bajillion other contracts. And, her friend Kenna is like, what are you going to do? Because she's like, you know what? You're not happy here. You need to go do what makes you happy. And it's like, you either sign this or you don't. But when I come back, like, you better not be in my office. Like, make a decision. And you're like, that's a good friend right there. She's calling you out on your shit. And she's telling you that you need to do something about it. And so then we see that Allie has literally packed up all of her stuff, bought a car, and goes to Hudson's house back at Cape Cod and realizes that he's gone. And she's just like, what? Where is he? Like, why is all this stuff gone? Like, what? And she goes to the cafe because she's like, I need to find Caroline, find out what happened. Like, where did he go? And she's just like, I'm so sorry you came all the way here. And she's like, what do you mean? And she's like, he's not here. You're like, where is he?
You
Fast
went the
forward a
wrong
couple.
direction.
You went the
Like,
wrong.
that's what
Like
she
you guys
said.
were
And I'm like,
literally. What? What do you mean? Where is
what do you
he?
mean?
And you fast forward a couple of weeks. Hudson is in Sitka, which was his dream always, to be in Alaska. He has a beautiful house with like a little wraparound porch, like fence, and he like loves it. And he sees this car in the driveway, and he's like, "What? Who is this?" And he's like, "Oh my God, is it my family?" And they try and surprise me, like, "Oh, that's so annoying." But then he like walks around to the back to see, if somebody's there, because he's like, I don't know. And he sees Allie, and he sees the dog Sadie, and her like throwing like a ball or something. And he sees like she's brought everything that she owns. Like she's bought this car, she drove across the country. And he's like, what are you doing here? Your show opens tomorrow night. I was planning to fly to New York to watch you on opening night. He's like pushing back on her that she gave up her dream. And she's just like, my dream changed. Like, you're my dream. And I do have the dream of ballet. She's like, but I was so unhappy there. I didn't want to do my contract. So I'm going to do freelance. So she's like, I will take the parts that I want and travel like where I want to go for like 3 weeks at a time and then come back home to you. Cause like you're my new dream, which gave me like Rapunzel like vibes of like Tangled, like you are my new dream. You're like, oh. She's like, if that's okay with you, if I can live with you, but if not, like I'll get an apartment. And he's like, oh hell no, like you're staying with me. You're not going anywhere, girl. And you're like, yay, they're together. I'm so happy. No one died. Yay.
Except for Lena.
And then,
but that was
right.
like chapter 2. So
yeah, it's true. We already knew that happened. Yeah, yes. We're okay. And it's like the dog's alive, like because we were also worried about that in the first chapter. We're like, is the doggy okay? So like everybody's happy. 5 years later, everyone is then gathered to watch Juniper perform at the Met, and it's just beautiful, and it just ends with them being like, she's flawless, she's wonderful. And you're like, yay, happy endings.
Happy ending.
Thank you, Rebecca Yarros. We like a happy ending.
Not a I did what you told me.
Oh, so pissed.
I mean, we still like that. Let's be honest. We did still like it. But also.
But upset, yeah.
But also. Okay. Hot and Steamy. Yeah. This felt like a 3-pepper book. We get kind of like 3 good scenes.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Rebecca has more spice in her.
Oh yeah, we know she does. She's got it. But you know what? It was okay. It was tame.
It was okay. Like, it was tame. It was good. I think it felt like the right amount of spice given how intense the backstory was and some of the topics that were discussed. Okay. So first up, chapter 20. This is right the night of the gala. Allie wins 5 minutes, and we get a really hot scene where he goes down on her in the kitchen while she's on the island.
Mm-hmm. And she's literally just like, oh my God, Hudson, just touch me. And she's like, this teasing is driving me crazy. She's like, I balanced on one hand, held onto the back of his neck with the other. And his fingers found me, and then his eyes slid shut as he groaned, fuck, Allie, you're soaking wet. And you're like, oh my God, yeah, of course, it's 10 years in the making. And she says, I gasped as he brushed my clit. His eyes flew open. I wasn't sure what turned me on more. The circles he started tracing with his fingers around but not over my clit, or the way he looked at me like I was the answer to every question he's ever asked. She said, soft, circle, hot, circle, slick, circle, flawless. And you're like, oh my God.
Oh God.
Holy shit. Yeah. Pleasure shot through my veins, sharp and sweet. And then he says, tell me, love, are you used to taking what you want? And he's like, you are, aren't you? You know exactly what your body needs to get there, and you take it. Quick, easy, you have partners, not lovers. And he says, denying you that little orgasm you almost took so I can ruin you with the one I'm going to give you. And you're like, oh my gosh.
Yes,
he just like teases her and like is rebuilding her. And every time she says his name, he's like, that's so fucking hot. He's like, you're on fire, aren't you? And she literally is just like dying at this point. Like her back is like arching. She shatters wave after wave of pleasure falling over her. So intense, cresting again. And he says, you're stunning, a damn revelation. And you're just like, oh my God. And she says, don't stop. 11 long years. You taste better than I ever dreamed. And then he like has her leg up over his face and just like leaning back on the island. And she's like, oh my God, don't stop. And he didn't. But then, of course, we have Eva coming in and cock-blocking us.
Yes.
As we're about to get some more. Like literally, like as his shirt is off and his pants are starting to come down, she wants to return the favor. It's like, oh, she's like, oh, what did I just interrupt? You're like, yes, you did interrupt.
Like,
leave.
get out.
Get out. But that was steamy, and we were so here for that. So then we get the actual, like, really, really good sex scene. In chapter 25, they have sex in the cabin and lots of mentions of sex on the picnic table, the shower, and the lake. And you're like, oh, it's going on. And so this part where he's like, are you sure you want this now? Like, are you sure? Because they kind of had a little teasing before. And she's just like, yes, I do. And my core clenched, heat gathered in my stomach, low and insistent. And he says, oh, fuck. Come here, love. You're absolutely perfect. So damn stunning. Like, the fact that he calls her love, you're just like, oh, yes, please.
What's interesting is she wrote this book right before she wrote Onyx Storm, where Zayden calls her love.
I love that. That's good. So then Hudson is getting a little handsy. We should call him Handsy Hudson.
I like that. Change approved.
Yep. His hand slid between my thighs, and I felt his moan vibrate through his chest as my own answered at the touch of his talented fingers. Oof. And she says, I fought for breath as he stroked and teased, and gasped as he flicked my clit with his thumb. I don't care, as long as you don't make me wait for the first one. He's like, first one? You're learning. And she says, you're going to ruin me for anyone else, aren't you? There is no one else. Never was. Not for either of us. All those other guys, they were just placeholders. You're like, oh, yes, you are, honey.
Right.
And then he says, sit up. I want to watch you come. And you're like, oh my gosh. And he just like tells her, sit. Every muscle in my body clenched. Sit, Alessandra. He tugged on my thighs and I bucked. And you're like, oh my. Worded me with a groan, pulled me against his mouth, and stole my entire soul with his lips and tongue. Then we get to another part where they're like really going at it. And he reached up, covering my mouth with one hand and pulling me harder into his mouth with the other, holding me prisoner for every lash of his tongue. I don't know. Every time that there's like a guy that's like making you like not scream, but scream, you're like,
yeah,
that's hot. Mm-hmm. He followed, rolling me onto my back, then lightly traced my clit with the tip of his tongue. And she says, I want you, Hudson, inside me, now. And he says, I want you desperate, writhing and needy and begging for me. And he literally says, you need to beg for it. Oh, and she does. She's begging for it. She's like, you want to wait till I'm begging? And now he's like, oh, no, I need you, like writhing and begging. We waited too long for it to be anything less. And then she says, don't be gentle or careful. Fuck me like you mean it, Hudson.
I think he does.
Did. I think he does. I think he absolutely did.
I think he's been very clear about his intentions regarding you for a very long time.
You like he meant it. Yes. And then we get to chat. Oh, yeah.
They mentioned like sex on the picnic table, and all I thought of, it was like one line where they said that, and I was just like, what kind of campground do you go to? Because every picnic table I've seen at campgrounds, all I think of is splinters.
Yeah, ouch.
Like, ouch. How is that hot and sexy?
And has anyone seen this?
No, because I think their family is left.
Yeah, but aren't there other campers still around?
That's what I would assume, but maybe it's like, I don't know, like a Monday or Tuesday and there's no one around.
And also in the lake, I'm like, there's like stuff in there.
Maybe it was like on the beach at the lake.
Yeah. But still, like every time you take a shower, like you go to the lake, like they say, like you have to shower afterwards because like you could get like sick, like lake sickness. And you're like, I don't want to have sex in there. Like, no.
Right.
I mean, if the mood strikes, Never say
I mean,
never,
it
but
happens.
it happens, clearly.
Clearly.
But you know where else it happens? In a ballet studio,
Which
which
is
is where we
probably
have
my
the next
favorite.
one. Oh my God, this one's so good. Chapter 34 in the ballet studio. Yes. Literally. I tore at the buttons on his shirt and reluctantly surrendered the kiss for the whole 3 seconds it took Hudson to strip off my tank top, leaving me bare from the waist up. Then he cupped my breast, and the skin of his thumb over my nipple hardened the peak instantly. A shiver rolled up my spine. And he says, "Fuck, Allie." That moan echoed off the mirrored walls. Mirrored walls. As I wrapped my hand around his cock and stroked from the tip all the way to his base. And he starts saying, "Allie," but ends on a rumbling groan as I rose to my knees and sucked him into my mouth. And he says, "Holy shit, Allie, love. Oh my God." He's like, "You have to stop." She's like, "What? What do you mean?" "Sure."
What do you mean?
And he's like, no. He's like, "I need to fuck you now. Like, I need to happen." "I've been fantasizing about what I would do to you in this room for far longer than I care to admit." Is that so? They're teasing each other. And then we get the good stuff. He says, "God, the things I pictured doing to you." He dropped to his knees at my feet, hooked an arm around my left leg, and lifted it to settle it on the shoulder. And you're like, "Oh, yes, please." "Hands on the bar, Allie." I immediately did as he ordered. Perfect. And then he started chasing the high I knew that only he could give me. He held me in place, guided my hips with the other, using it to haul me into the rapturous assault, and then hold me at bay while I came close to the edge, until my muscles shook and my desperation spiraled into needy pants and whispered please. You trembling, gasping, flushing with need, that's exactly what I pictured. And he says, "Turn around." I flipped to face the bar, and then took 2 steps back, meeting his gaze in the mirror. "Fucking flawless," he says. He says, "Eyes. Watch us." So I'm like, oh my God, you're on the ballet bar, and like,
There's
he's
mirrors.
literally like, "You have to watch us." He's like, "Every time you're in the studio, I want you to remember exactly how this feels, what we do to each other." And then she says, "Damn, fuck, I was doomed to never look at a mirror the same way again." Same,
Right?
girl.
Same.
Same.
Especially after, if you think about like in the Never list, we get this like there's all the mirrors like in Cal's room.
In Cal's room. Mm-hmm.
And then we
You're
have
like,
this. I'm just like,
so good.
damn.
His last little bit. His mouth consumed mine as he lifted me into his arms, and I wound my arms around his neck, my legs, and around his waist. My ass hit the bar, and he was inside me again, stroking deep, feeding the wild desperation that had me moaning into his mouth. And he says, "Fucking bar." My back hit the section of the mirror where the bar ended, and then he drove so deep I saw stars, and our kiss muffled our shouts. Oh, God, yes. Now I want a ballet bar
Right?
in my house. That's a different kind of stretching you're doing in there, honey.
It is.
But
and she's never going to like, can you imagine like if you have that experience and then you're expected to go practice the next day? Like,
like you lift your leg up, just do like a little stretch, and you're like, "Oh, I remember when I was in this position last."
in this room.
Good thing she's flexible.
That's right.
She's very flexible, and he takes advantage.
He does. Good for
And
him.
there's that one part where she was just like, "You know what? He is like a Greek god, and he fucks like one too." And you're like, "Ah, yes."
Yes.
I'm like, "Yeah," because he's in the Coast Guard. He's got muscles. He's built.
Well, and he was very clear that like he was going to use sex to keep her, and he definitely does.
And he can keep.
I mean, that's not the only reason, but like, whew.
Oh yes, of course, yes, naturally, but yes, so here for that.
So
I
here for that.
wanted more.
I did want
I
more.
wanted more.
So I think that's like one of our opinions, right? We always want more scenes. There.
Always want more.
Oh, there could have been like a couple more. We would have liked it. Just saying. Just saying. I think for me, like one of the I liked so much about this book. I think one of the things that I liked the most was Caroline's character, and I would love to see a future book of her finding happiness. like after the death of her husband, and also to see kind of like how the characters evolve as like secondary characters in the book. Because I do think there was a lot of truth to like the worries and fears that she has after like being a widow, but also being an adoptive mother, and like the fear about like potentially losing Juniper or just doing what's best for her. I think Rebecca Yarros did a really beautiful job with all of that, which was like beautiful to read, but then also like gut-wrenching to also read, because if you've ever had those types of fears, it makes it even harder to relive. So,
and then the only really a complaint I have is like, I really kind of wish that Sophie didn't have dementia in the end, so that she could have really understood like the trauma that she put all of her children through, and like really understand like what she was saying to Allie at the end, and like what Allie was saying to her at the end, of just being like, you have 4 daughters. Like, yes, we lost Lena, but you still have us 3 here. And like, we are people too. We're not just like replacements for like what you failed to do in your life. Because that was all it was. Like, she, got pregnant and then like couldn't be a dancer anymore. And it's like, you were trying to like basically like live vicariously through your children, but like they never met your standards. And so I really wish that, she got to have it stuck to her and like understand it, because with dementia, it just feels like she never is going to learn a lesson, and like maybe she never really would. And, that just
a lot of
sucks.
people like that don't, unfortunately.
They never do. But at least the people that they like traumatized and like the victims of it have like a chance to like rebuild,
move on. Well, and that's what Allie does. Yeah.
You see that, which is good. Like, Allie gets to like move on, live her dream, being a freelance ballerina, and Anne gets to like start her practice again, and she gets to be close to Juniper and like help her like grow and like kind of have like that motherly impact. And then even Eva gets to like shine in her own way, like she finds her own light. And they're all separated, which is good though. But they still come back to that house because they're like, you know what? It's still good. We still want to come back here and spend time together. We are still sisters.
Well, because they want to.
Maybe because they want to. And maybe in a way that was almost like the mother trying in some weird way to like have a redemption of like, I fucked up, but you still have each other. So maybe you guys can work it out. I don't know.
Who knows?
Maybe that's a stretch of just hoping for the best, but
hoping for the best. And
yeah. I don't know.
Well, in terms of what's next, if you enjoyed this book, you'll probably love every other one of her contemporary romance books. Highly recommend Flight and Glory series and The Likely Events. Also great if you'd like to be emotionally destroyed for a very long time.
Oh God.
This is like a mild emotional destroy book. If you would like to be really destroyed, you should read The Last Letter or The Things We Leave Unfinished. You should not read them if you don't want to cry for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'll say. If you want something that won't emotionally destroy you as much, but still packs a little bit of an emotional punch, so more similar in the vein to this book, Christina Lauren's Twice in a Blue Moon is really good. Also has some similar storyline concepts to this one. And Catherine Center's How to Walk Away and Hello Stranger are also very much good. It have like a similar type of good backstory, some emotional punches that aren't going to make you sob hysterically.
Good to know. And join us next week when we dive into the world of romantasy and discuss the 5th book in the Thrall series that just came out. We are so excited. It is Chained by K.A. Riley, and we cannot wait to dive back into that world. So happy reading, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to Late Night Reads. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Late Night Reads Podcast. And check out latenightreads.com for even more information about all the books we're reading. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. And share the show with your fellow book lovers.